Every night, while the rest of the country is asleep, an invisible economic engine roars to life. Thousands of long-haul truckers navigate the pitch-black interstate system, moving millions of tons of cargo in a dizzying, relentless sprint toward morning. It is a job defined by extreme physical limits. Drivers face immense economic pressure to skip sleep and hit their delivery windows. The longer the shift goes on, the heavier the eyelids get, and the deeper the physical exhaustion sets in. Out there in the dark, drivers enter a highway vacuum. They are sealed inside a small metal box, often hundreds of miles away from the nearest police cruiser or hospital. In the quiet of the night shift, the interstate becomes a psychological hunting ground. Opportunistic predators know exactly how isolated these drivers are. They study the environment, and they actively engineer psychological traps specifically designed to exploit the weary people behind the wheel. Look at this photo of the road. This is the Mojave Desert at night, where the double yellow lines vanish into complete darkness. In 2017, a fatigued driver was making an overnight haul through this exact kind of geographic isolation. Hours into his drive, his dim headlights caught an obstruction. A car was parked directly on the double yellow lines. Its hazard lights were flashing, and the passenger door was wide open. A car pulled off to the shoulder is easy to ignore, but a vehicle blocking the center of the lane forces a mental override. It weaponizes human curiosity, compelling the driver to hit the brakes and investigate rather than maintaining their momentum. The driver stopped his rig and approached the obstacle. The car was completely empty. Moving to the back, he found the trunk jammed from the inside. When he forced it open through the back seat, he discovered 3 squishy garbage bags tied tight with rope. That was when the trap was sprung. A deafening gunshot rang out into the night. As the driver scrambled back to a semi-truck, a man emerged from the dark carrying a small shovel and a hunting rifle. The attacker didn't need roadblocks or spike strips to halt a massive commercial truck. He simply presented a scenario so strange that the driver's own curiosity paused the 40-ton vehicle, creating a physical vulnerability. Predators don't always have to stop a truck on the highway. Sometimes they let the driver's own biology do the work. Take the case of a young trucker hauling from New Jersey to Indiana, who pulled into a seemingly abandoned Ohio rest stop. After 12 straight hours on the road, following a previous 8-hour shift, his body was failing. He was dangerously close to falling asleep at the wheel and urgently needed caffeine to physically survive the remainder of his route. Inside the dark convenience store, he spotted a faint glow coming from a back room. He walked toward it, only to find a single plugged-in refrigerator. The appliance was completely gutted. No shelves, no stock, just an empty, illuminated box. While the driver stood there trying to process this eerie setup, he heard a faint clatter in the main room. His attention was entirely consumed by the distraction inside the building, allowing whoever was outside to slip straight into his unlocked semi-truck. He abandoned the search, bought a drink down the road, and merged back onto the highway. Minutes later, moving at high speed, he saw the sleeper curtain behind his seat billowing out. Following a terrifying dash to a police station, officers pulled 3 silent stowaways wrapped in rags from the back of his cab, one of them carrying 2 switchblades. The perpetrators understood that exhaustion eventually dictates every driver's schedule. By planting an unnerving distraction right where someone desperate for a break would look, they managed to breach the cab, the one secure sanctuary the driver has. The most complex manipulation out on the asphalt involves weaponizing our deepest moral instincts. This played out on a desolate stretch of Montana highway during the freezing early morning hours. The driver in this case was pushing his body to the point of collapse, inhaling sharp chemical-smelling salts just to shock his brain into keeping his eyes open. As he desperately scanned the pitch-black tree line for a place to pull over, his headlights swept across a trap. Lying right in the middle of the road were scattered pieces of children's clothing, followed closely by a pair of small shoes. He stopped his rig and stepped out into the cold air to inspect the clothing. A moment later, the sharp, piercing scream of a young child echoed out from deep within the dark woods. This diagram illustrates how the ambush was laid out. Instead of walking into the trees, the driver quickly swung his truck around and blasted his high beams directly into the woods. The light illuminated 3 or 4 adults scrambling for cover. One of them was holding up a massive electronic speaker used to project the recorded screams. Looking at this space between the truck and the trees, you can see the agonizing psychological crossroads this creates. The victim is forced to choose between retreating to the safety of their vehicle or stepping into that dark, highly vulnerable space to save what sounds like a defenseless child. Weaponizing a victim's morality turns their own decency into a tactical advantage, engineered to draw them away from their heavy machinery and into the dark. The true horror underlying these encounters is completely devoid of ghosts or the supernatural. These are calculated, mechanical operations executed by human beings who prey on the vulnerable. Their toolkit relies on psychological levers. They construct scenarios that systematically manipulate a passing driver's natural curiosity, their urgent biological needs, and their deepest empathetic instincts. In any normal neighborhood or town, the correct response is to investigate a bizarre anomaly. The right thing to do is to step into the dark to help someone in need. But in the vast, empty vacuum of the night highway, those same decent instincts can be fatal. To survive the extreme isolation of a long haul, veteran drivers have to learn a very unnatural lesson. They must suppress their own humanity, lock the doors, and keep the wheels moving.